thank you for joining me for this Pilates session. The session today is aimed at advanced beginners to intermediate. Please be aware that throughout the session today that you are in control of your own body. So if there's any positions, exercises or number of repetitions that are not right for you, please know you do not have to do them. Take a rest, come back into it, or I tend to go through levels of exercises, so pick the level that suits you the best. Okay, we're going to start with a posture alignment sequence today, just to get ourselves lined up, ready for our exercise ahead. We're going to do a short warm-up in standing, and then we're going to come onto the mat. So let's start with our posture alignment sequence. So first of all, we want to think about our foot position. We want to be standing with our feet hip distance apart. A nice way to find that distance is to bring your feet together, keep your heels together, turn your toes out, and bring your heels to join you. That gives you nice parallel lines running through your legs and stacks your joints correctly. We now want to think about the balance of weight across our foot now. A nice little exercise to find that, because we want an even balance of weight, is imagine we're in a tube and we're going to trace the inside edge of the tube with our body weight. So let's bring our weight forward to begin with, and let's just trace the inside edge of that tube, going round to the side, weight all the way onto our heels, weight onto the other side, and then back to the front. And let's come back the other way now. So keeping nice and control your balance, just tracing that inside edge of that tube. And we're going to come back again, to do that one more on each side. And this time, as we're coming round, we're going to start making that circle a little bit smaller. So instead of going to the extremes, forward, side and back, we're just going to make that circle a little bit smaller and smaller as we come round, and then we're going to come to rest in the middle. So hopefully then our weight should be running down through our legs and spread evenly across our feet. So we should have connection with the floor, with our base of our big toe, base of our little toe and our heel. Okay, we're going to draw up through the arch of our foot to make sure our feet stay nice and active. We're going to think about our knees. We want these nice and soft. We don't want them bent or locked. We just want them nice and soft while we're doing standing work. And then we're going to think about our pelvis. Now ideally we want this in a neutral position, which means that we're nice and level across the front and we have a natural arch in our lower back. So to find this, we're going to go through some extremes. We're going to do an extreme tilt forward, arching our lower back, tilting our pelvis forward, and an extreme tilt back, flattening our lower back and tilting our pelvis back. So let's just do that a few times. Only go as far as comfortable for you. Don't push into any pain. Okay, and just maybe find your hips as well. See what they're doing as you tilt back and as you tilt forward. And then we're going to make that movement smaller and smaller until we come to rest in the middle, with our hip bones should be pointing dead forward, and that should tell us we've got our nice neutral pelvis level at the front and that natural arch at the back. Lovely. Okay, we're going to think about our rib cage, the front of our rib cage, and what we don't want to be poking that front of our rib cage out, arching through our lower back. If we are, we just want to soften the front of our ribs down towards our pelvis, almost shutting the lid on our core area. That's going to allow us to engage our core muscles more effectively. And speaking about our core muscles, we want to make sure that these are on and switched on and working. We don't need them too strongly engaged to start with, but we do need some light level of engagement to start with. So let's think about our pelvic floor now. Let's almost draw up those muscles that are underneath us and just almost like bringing them up towards our belly button so we can feel they're switched on and working, but it's not such a strong hold to begin with. Let's also think about our abdominal muscles. Let's draw those muscles in, engage them, almost drawing them in towards the centre of our tummy, towards our belly button. And again, we just want a light engagement to begin with so you can feel they're working, but it's not so strong that you couldn't hold it for long periods. That supports our spine and protects our lower back. We're then going to think about our shoulder placements. Let's just start rolling our shoulders up, back and down. Really important we have our shoulders relaxed away from our ears. Let's just roll through a couple of times. And then just come to rest at the bottom of that movement. Just think about the weight of your arms, and that's what we're using to draw our shoulders away from our ears. We're not pulling them away from our ears or creating tension in muscles around our shoulders and top of our back. We're then going to think about our shoulder blades, and these are triangles shaped on the back of our rib cage. We want these to be melting down our back and then almost aiming to opposite jean pockets, because that's just going to open our chest. That's just going to set our shoulder blades correctly onto the back of our rib cage. Finally, we want to have a nice tall spine at all times. So let's imagine we've got a hook on top of our head and we're being suspended from the ceiling. It's almost creating little gaps between each of our vertebrae, so we're having a nice long spine. Okay, lovely. That's our posture alignment. All done and dusted. Let's carry that with us throughout the class today. Okay, we're ready to do our short warm-up now in standing. So we're going to start with our upper body and with an exercise called dumb waiter. So let's float our arms up to elbow height, and then we're just going to send our hands away and then back to centre. So this is warming up through our shoulder and shoulder blade muscles and getting a nice bit of mobility into our shoulder joints. Also gives us a good opportunity to think about our upper body posture. Make sure our shoulders are relaxed away from our ears, shoulder blades are gliding down our backs, opposite jean pockets, and the front of our rib cage is just melting down towards our pelvis. Okay, let's take one more after this one. Lovely. And now we're going to just widen our stance a little bit, turn our toes out, because we're going to add a squat to this exercise. So we're going to squat down as we open up and then return back up. So we're just bringing in some lower body work now, just warming up those muscles in our lower body and getting some nice mobility into those joints. Make sure you stay nice and level in your pelvis. And as you come up, you push through your heels and squeeze your glutes to come up. Lovely. Then take one more after this one. Lovely. And then we're going to keep our arms in this position but come back to our hip distance apart stance, and then we're going to extend our dumb waiter into Cleopatra arms. So we open and reach out and back. So we're just increasing that stretch and that mobility in our shoulder joints and shoulder muscles and shoulder blade muscles. But we're also introducing a little stretch to the front of our chest. So make sure when you're at that furthest point, you really stretch your fingers apart, almost like you're trying to touch the opposite walls. Keep checking that you've got nice relaxed shoulders. Shoulders are gliding, shoulder blades, gliding down your back. Okay, let's take one more. Okay. We're going to add a heel raise now. So as we reach up, we're going to rise up onto our heels, onto our balls of our foot, So keep going. So this is adding a little bit of mobility into our foot joints. A little bit of strength for our ankle joints and ankles, and a bit of calf work as well. It's also a lovely balance exercise. Balance really important for good posture. So try and make sure you control going up and control going down. Okay, we're going to take one more after this one. Lovely. And we're just going to continue our balance work a little bit before we come onto the mat. We're going to come into a heel-toe stand. We're going to make sure we've got even balance of weight over both feet. We're drawing up to the arch of our foot. Nice soft knees and nice level pelvis. We're going to do some corkscrew arms just to finish off our warm-up for upper body. So we're going to take our arms round wide. We're going to glide our hands down behind our head. We're going to shrug our shoulders up. We're going to release our shoulders. We're going to reach up nice and tall, and we're going to send our arms away. Let's go again. So we stretch round, glide down, shrug up, release, reach up and send away. Lovely. And one more in this direction. Glide down, shrug up, release, reach and away. We're just going to change our foot leads. Again, make sure we're nice evenly balanced over both feet, pulling up to the arch of our foot, nice and level across the pelvis, relax shoulders, shoulder blades gliding down our back to opposite jean pockets. And let's go again. So we're stretching round, gliding down, shrugging up, releasing down, reaching up and stretching away. Stretch. So keep thinking about your posture. Make sure your shoulders are nice and relaxed, shoulder blades gliding down your back and front of your rib cage, softening down towards your pelvis. And send your arms away. Lovely. Okay, shake out. That was a quick warm up. We're going to go down onto the mat now for our exercise. Okay, so we're going to come onto the mat now for our first exercise. And we're going to come down into a 4-point kneel because we're going to do our leg pulling prone preparation. So let's get set up first in 4-point kneel. Let's make sure our knees are under our hips. We've got a nice neutral pelvis so we can flatten and arch our lower back a few times, then come to rest in the middle with our hip bones pointing down. Let's make sure that we draw up through our abdominal muscles, making sure they're not sagging down towards the mat. Let's make sure we're lifted at our breastbone. We're not hanging or sagging into our shoulder blades. We're lifting up, engaging those muscles around the top of our shoulders and shoulder blades. Let's bring our wrists just slightly in front of our shoulders, and let's make sure our gaze is just down in front of us on the mat. Okay, we're going to tuck our toes. We're going to take an in-breath. On an out-breath, we're going to float our knees up off the mat about 1 inch. We're going to take an in-breath to hold, and we're going to take an out-breath to lower. Lovely. Let's go again. So, out-breath to lift, in-breath to hold, out-breath to lower. Brilliant. Keep working with your breath. This is a great strengthening exercise for your upper body posture muscles. Those muscles around the top of your shoulders and around your shoulder blades. It's also a great exercise for your abdominal muscles. You're having to work hard here to keep everything nice and still around your pelvis and lower back region. There should be no movement at all apart from floating your knees up and then controlling that lower back down. Okay, keep going, working with your breath. Keep nice and lifted at your breastbone and really pulling up through those abdominal muscles. Let's take 2 more. 1 more. Lovely, and push back, sit onto your heels and just give your wrists a roll. Now if that level is enough for you today, stay there, do another set of 10. If you want a bit more of a challenge, we're going to add level 2 to the hover. We're going to add a plank hold. So let's get set up again. Let's bring our knees under our hips. Make sure we've got a nice strong core connection, lifted out of our breastbone. This time we're going to bring our hands a lot further forward because we're going to shoot forward into a plank. So let's tuck our toes. Let's take an in-breath to prepare. On an out-breath, we're going to hover our knees up and then shoot forward into our plank. We're going to hold there for an in-breath, return back to our hover and lower back down. Brilliant, let's go again. So we hover, shoot forward into our plank, hold there for an in-breath and then return to our hover and lower back down. Okay, so this is increasing that challenge, that work in our muscles around our shoulders and shoulder blades. It's continuing a nice strong core connection, core engagement work, and we're also bringing in a little bit of lower body here, some glutes and some leg work, keeping everything nice and still when we're in our plank position. Okay, now if you're happy at that level, keep going. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, we're going to take out the return to the mat. So we're going to hover, shoot forward to plank, hold there for an in-breath, back to hover, hold at the hover and back to plank. And we're just going to keep working through these 2 hovers and planks. Keeping nice and lifted at your breastbone, strong core connection, squeezing your glutes to keep everything nice and still around your pelvis and hip area. Keep that gaze down. We're going to go for 1 more after this one. So hover, shoot forward into that strong plank position, hold, return to your hover, lower back down. Well done. Push back into a child's pose and just stretch through your arms and just stretch through those muscles on the top of your back. Okay, so from here we're going to push ourselves up, bring ourselves round to lie on our backs. We're We're going to come into Pilates rest position. So we have our knees bent, feet hip distance apart. And we're going to use a slim head cushion or a folded towel just under the back of our heads, just to make sure our neck is long and in neutral alignment. We're going to make sure that our pelvis is in a neutral alignment too, so we're going to flatten and arch our lower back off the mat a few times, working through between those extremes, and then come to rest in the middle, and this time our hip bones should be pointing up directly to the ceiling. Okay, we're going to start off with this abdominal exercises with our one leg stretch. So we're going to take one leg away along the mat, and then we're going to come back to that start position and go again. So we're stretching that leg away, pointing through our toe, then drawing it back to that start position. As we're doing this, we should have no movement at all in our pelvis and lower back area. So we shouldn't be rocking side to side or flattening or arching our lower back. Our whole of the back of our rib cage should be relaxed and in connection with the mat. We should have our shoulders, back of our shoulders relaxing onto the mat as well, and the front of our ribs gliding down towards our pelvis. Okay. So you can push down on your stationary leg as you take the opposite leg away, just to keep it nice and stable and supported. Let's do one more on each leg. You should be feeling your core working to keep everything nice and still as you take the leg away and back. Okay, we're going to add some arms now, so we're going to float our arms up into the air. Let's make sure we're not reaching up. Let's make sure the back of our shoulders and our shoulder blades are in contact with the mat. And this time, as we stretch one leg away, we're taking our arms overhead, and then we're bringing everything back in. So we're taking arms overhead as we stretch through the legs and bring back in. We can add some breath here. We can breathe out as we take everything away, in to return. And again, we're just making sure there's no movement at all in our stomach area, our lower back area. We're not flattening or arching. Our rib cage is staying relaxed on the mat. The front of our ribs is staying drawn down towards our pelvis. So really stretch your toes and your fingertips away at that furthest point. Get that nice lengthening in your arm and leg muscles. Lovely. Let's go for one more each side. So hopefully feeling that you're having to work a little bit harder in your abdominal muscles to keep everything still as arms and legs are floating away. Okay, let's hold there. We're going to increase the challenge a bit more now on our abdominal muscles. We're going to interlace our fingers, just bring our hands behind our heads. We're going to do the Pilates version of a crunch, which is called abdominal preparation. So let's make sure we're still nice and neutral at our pelvis. Let's make sure that our elbows are in our peripheral vision, and we've got a nice little gap underneath our chin. We're going to take an in-breath to prepare, and an out-breath, we're going to slide the front of our rib cage down towards our pelvis, lifting our upper body off the mat, so we gaze over our knees, and then we're going to lower back down. Lovely, let's do that again. So in-breath to prepare, out-breath to engage your tummy muscles, slide your rib cage down, out-breath to lower back down. Okay, so we're really targeting these abdominal muscles now, specifically our upper abdominal muscles. They're working, engaging hard to bring us off the mat, sliding those rib cage down towards our pelvis, and then lower us back down with control. Make sure as you're engaging through your abdominal muscles, you're flattening them down, almost like you're trying to flatten them towards your spine, not doming out. And again, there should be no movement at all around your pelvis or your lower back region. Your hip bone should be staying pointing right up towards the ceiling. That little gap, that natural arch in your lower back should be there. So keep your elbows and your peripheral vision and just keep working with your breath. Breathing out to engage and slide your rib cage down to come up, and breathe out to come back in to come back down, sorry. Let's do one more like this, and lower back down. Lovely. Now if that level suits you today, just stay that level and go for a few more repetitions there. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, we're going to come up and hold and then add our leg stretch. Okay, so let's go again. So in breath to prepare, out breath to slide our ribcage up, engaging our core. At that top point, we're going to slide one leg away on a stretch and then the other leg away on a stretch. And then we're going to lower back down. Lovely. Let's go again. So we're breathing in to prepare, breathing out to engage our abdominal muscles, slide our ribcage down, hold down in breath, and then breathe out to take one leg away, and again, and then lower back down. Lovely. Let's keep going with this. And again, there should be no movement at all in your pelvis or your lower back. If you find that by stretching your leg too far down, you're flattening into your lower back, then just don't lengthen your legs too long. So maybe just come halfway. You're still working your core, you're still getting some really good endurance work into those core muscles and your deep core muscles. Okay, we're going to do a few more like this. So you'll notice that the Pilates crunch isn't as quite as high as normal crunch. You should just feel the back of your shoulder blades still in connection with the mat. Lovely, let's just do one more. Breathing out to come up, in to hold, out to send those legs away, keeping lifted, drawing down through those abdominal muscles, and then lower back down. Lovely, well done. Stretch your legs out, stretch your arms out, give yourself a full body stretch just to release through those muscles. Okay, so we're going to roll onto our sides now and do a bit of work into our glute muscles. So let's line ourselves up nice and long at the front of the mat to begin with. You can use your slim cushion or your folded towel just in between your head and your arm for a bit of comfort. We're going to make sure we're nice and vertical through our shoulders, that they're stacked. The front of our rib cage is gliding back towards the back of our rib cage, so we're not arching through our ribs at all. We've got a nice strong core connection. Our hip bones are pointing forward and that top hip is pushed down towards our feet. The reason we do this is to make sure that our spine is in neutral alignment while we're lying on the mat, but it also brings that underside waist up off the mat and engages those muscles, so you're working these muscles as well in this side lying position. Okay, top hand can be on the mat or on your hip, and then we're just going to bend our knees and our hips, making sure the back of our feet is in line with our bottom, because we're going to do some clam to start with today. Okay, so in this position I'm going to pop my hand on the top of my hip so I can feel what's happening, because we want no movement at all. We're going to take an in-breath to prepare. On an out-breath, we're going to float our knee up towards the ceiling, and then we're going to lower it back down on an in-breath. Let's go again. So let's squeeze our glutes together, squeeze our sit bones together to float that knee up, and then lower it back down with control. So while we're doing this, there should be no movement at all in our core or our upper body. We shouldn't be following the movement with our body at all. Everything stays still. It's just that knee floating up and just controlled return back. So we're squeezing glutes together to float it up and return. At this level, it isn't a great range of movement. It's quite a small one. Lovely, rest there. Now if you're happy at that level, stay there. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, we can go on to level 2. So we keep our ankles, our feet glued together, we lift them as high as we can. Push that top hip down to make sure it hasn't sagged back onto the mat. And then we go again with our knee floats. We engage our sit bones together, we float that top knee up, and then we lower back down. So keep going. So we're taking just as much time to open as we are to lower back down. So we should be starting to feel this work in our top jean pocket area. That's the side of our hip. That's our glute med. That's one of our smaller glute muscles. Very important for hip stability and knee stability. So keep going. Now if you need a little bit of support, pop your top hand onto the mat or the floor in front of you, because what we really want is no movement at all in your torso. You want to almost imagine you're sandwiched between two panes of glass from here up, and there's no movement at all anywhere else apart from just at this hip joint with your knee floating up and then returning back down. Let's go for 2 more like this. And again, if you're happy to stay at this level, that's great, or even drop down, that's fine. But if you want a little bit more of a challenge, we're going to add a leg stretch next. So we're going to open for climb, we're going to stretch that leg away, return back and close. So let's breathe out to open, to stretch, and in to return. So we're really squeezing into our glute muscles here, squeezing those sit bones together to control that movement. Keeping everything really still, so your abdominal muscles are having to work really hard now to keep everything still in your torso. Keep going. Keep breathing, keep controlling that movement. Keep that top hip tracking down towards your feet, and really stretch through that top leg. Really get some nice length in it. Lovely, let's do 1 more. Lovely, and then lower back down. Okay, we're going to keep our underside leg bent, but we're going to float our top leg up in line with our torso and then lengthen it out nice and long. We're going to come into some side kick now. And again, we can either have our hand on our hip or on the floor in front of us to help with stability. But the movement is simply just sweeping that leg forward with a pointed toe and flexing your foot and then drawing it back as far behind you as possible with a flexed foot. And let's go again. So we're sweeping forward, engaging our glutes to draw it back behind us. Okay, keep going. And again, we don't want any movement at all in our upper body. So if you need to put your hand on the mat in front of you just to control any wobbling forward or back, then do that. Because what we want to get is the greatest range of movement in that leg as possible. Because the further you can go back, the more you work into your glutes, and the further you can come forward, the more you work into your abdominal muscles. Okay, so we're breathing out to sweep forward, in to glide back, drawing into those bottom muscles. Lovely. Maybe even try hand on hip, just to give yourself a little bit more of a balance challenge. Keep breathing. Keep nice and relaxed in your neck and your head. Let's go for 1 more. So really hoping you're feeling it now in that top jean pocket area. Lovely. And then just straighten that leg underneath, so you're in a nice straight line. Okay, we're going to finish off this sequence of glute exercises with climb at level 3. If you want to come back to climb at level 1, if that's better, then do that. But if not, let's just make sure we're still set up correctly. So the front of our rib cage gliding back, nice strong core connection, and that top hip pushed down, giving us that little gap under our waist. So we're going to keep our underside leg up nice and long. You might want to pop your hand on the mat to start with, and then we're going to hook our foot behind our calf. Then we're going to let our leg lower all the way down to the mat. Okay, so we're going to take an in-breath. On an out-breath, we're going to squeeze our glutes together to float that knee up and as wide as we can without moving anything in our torso or hip region, and then we're going to lower it back down. Lovely, let's go again. Squeeze glutes together, float that knee up with control, and then control it back down. Okay, so again, we're working on quite a small base of support here. So we're really challenging into our abdominals to keep everything nice and still. And we're really working into our glute med muscle here, getting some nice strengthening and endurance work into that small glute muscle. Lovely, keep going. If you want, you can just pop your hand on your hip, make sure there's no movement. Making sure those hip bones are staying pointing forward like headlights of a car. And making sure we're not collapsing onto the mat with our underside waist. We're going to go for 2 more. Really squeeze those glutes together to lift that leg and then lower it back down. 1 more. Squeeze at the top and lower back down. Well done. Bring that leg up. Give your hip a bit of a rub. And then keep that underside leg nice and long underneath you. We're going to just make sure that we're still pushed down for that hip. And we're going to do some inner thigh or adductor pulses now. So we're just going to pulse that lower leg up into the air. We're going to really squeeze that inner thigh muscle to lift that leg. We're also going to reach our toe long. So really lengthen through that leg as we lift. So making sure again there's no movement at all in our upper body. All the movement is at our leg. Just floating up and down, squeezing at the top. Okay, last one, back down. Well done. Okay, bring your knees together. Just pop that head cushion or towel out the way. And let's just open out for a bit of a stretch. Nice and wide. Stretching fingertips apart to get a really nice stretch across your chest. And a little bit more of a stretch across that top glute area. Okay, so from here we're going to bring our arm round. We're going to push ourselves up into a cross-legged seated position. We're going to take a couple of mermaid stretches before we come down to our other side and work our glutes on our other side. So let's make sure we're sat right on top of our sit bones, even weight over both, that we've got a nice tall spine, relaxed shoulders and shoulder blades gliding down our back to opposite jean pockets. Okay, we're going to take one arm out to the side, stretch the other one up nice and tall, and then we're just going to arch over to one side, just stretching through the side of our body, and then push back up and relax back down. Let's go the other side. So arm out, reach up, arch over, almost like you're arching over a beach ball, not just collapsing down, and then push back up. So it's a lovely nice stretch down the side of your body, but also some nice lateral mobility for your spine, some nice sideward mobility for your spine. To make sure everything's pointing forward, hip bones pointing forward, shoulders pointing forward, shoulder blades gliding down your back, and shoulders nicely drawing away from your ears. Let's take one more each side, so arching over, keeping both sit bones in contact with the mat at all times. Lovely. Okay, from here we're going to take our mat or folded towel, pop it this side, because we're going to come down onto the opposite side now and work our glutes. So let's use the front of our mat to line ourselves up nice and straight, nice long spine to start with. Let's use our head cushion or towel just underneath our head. Let's make sure we're stacked through our shoulders, stacked through our hips, that top hip pushed down, and our rib cage drawing back towards the back of our rib cage. We're going to fold our knees and our hips, and you can use your hand just down the back of your body just to make sure your foot is in line with your bottom. Okay, so top hand can go on the mat or on your hip. We're going to take some climb at level 1 to begin with. So we're squeezing our sit bones together to float that knee up and then control it back down. Remember, at this level, it's not a great range of movement, sorry. You're just learning the movement pattern, making sure you're feeling it in this glute region, this top hip pocket area. Squeezing your sit bones together to lift that knee and lower it back down. Making sure there's no movement at all in your pelvis or your torso. Let's take one more. Again, if you're happy to stay here, that's great. If not, we're going to go into, if you want more of a challenge, we're going to go to level 2. So float both feet up, make sure that top hip's pushed down, and we're going to open and close. So we're breathing out to open into close. We're squeezing sit bones together to open those knees as wide as we can, and then to lower back down with control. Making sure there's no movement at all in our torso, that we're keeping that little gap under the underside of our waist. The hip bones are pointing forward like headlights of a car. Shoulders are pointing forward as well. So again, we should be feeling it now in this top jean pocket area, that little glute muscle. Really important for hip stability and stability of your knee. Let's take 3 more. 1. So if you're happy to stay here, you can do some more repetitions at level 2 or come back to level 1. If not, after this one, we're going to add some stretches. So we're going to open out and stretch away and return. So we're breathing out to open and stretch long, in to return. So really squeezing those sit bones together, squeezing into those glute muscles to control this movement. Really stretching long through that leg, that as you stretch away, point through your toe, engage all those muscles in your leg. We've got 1 more like this. Well done. And lower back down. Okay, we're keeping our underside leg bent. We're straightening out our top leg and bringing it up in line with our torso. And we're coming into our side kicks. So we're sweeping forward with a pointed foot and we're drawing back with a flexed foot. Breathing out to come forward, in to come back. Again, we're making sure there's no movement at all in our torso, and our pelvis should just be staying upright. I should be able to put a cup of tea on top of your hip. We shouldn't spill a drop. Remember, if you need to, you can pop your hand on the mat in front of you, especially if that helps you bring your leg more forward and more back. So as I said, it's going to really just engage into your stomach muscles a bit more and just really use that glute med a bit more as well. Okay, we're going to go for 1 more after this. Well done. Okay, we're going to stretch both legs nice and long, this time for our clam at level 3. Make sure we're set up properly, push that top hip down, relax through the front of your rib cage, hand on the mat and hook your foot behind your calf and let your knee roll forward onto the mat. Okay, squeeze your sit bones together, breathe out to lift that top leg up as wide as possible and then lower it back down with control. And let's go again. Squeezing sit bones together to bring that knee up as wide as possible and lower back down. Okay, so great balance challenge this. We're working a very small base of support on our leg and arm outstretched. And also a great glute strengthener and nice endurance into this muscle now. Okay, you might see if you can challenge yourself to take your arm away off the mat. Really draw into your core to get nice and balanced. Make sure there's no movement at all. Oops, not as balanced as I thought this side. I'm just going to pop my hand down. Try and be as light as possible with the hand on the mat if you are using your hand on the mat. We're going for 2 more. 1 and 1 more. Well done. Bring that leg down, bring it up. Give your hip a little rub. And we're going to go into our inner thigh muscle lifts now on this side. So make sure that top hip's pushed down and we're lifting. So we're lifting from our inner thigh muscle, squeezing that muscle to bring that leg up as high as possible. But at the same time, we're really reaching and stretching through that leg, engaging all those muscles in our leg as we lift. Keep breathing. Just keep pulsing up and down as high as possible, stretching through that leg. We're going for 2 more. Lovely, well done. Bring both knees up. Just take your head cushion away and just stretch out for a couple of breaths. Just really stretching fingertips apart to get that nice stretch across your chest and feel that little bit extra stretch across that top of your hip there. Okay, we're going to get our pillow back now. Just pop that under the back of our head and bring ourselves round into Pilates rest position. So we're going to do a little bit more work on our core now, and more specifically on our oblique muscles, which are on the side of our abdomen. So let's get set up in Pilates rest position to begin with. Let's make sure feet are hip distance apart. We're nice and neutral through our pelvis, with hip bones or headlights pointing up. The whole of the back of our rib cage is relaxed and in connection with the mat, and the back of our shoulders are relaxed and in connection with the mat too. So we're going to do hip twist at level 2. So for this, we need to glue our legs together, and we need to take our arms out nice and wide. We're going to take an in-breath to prepare. On an out-breath, we're going to engage into our core and with control, lower both our knees down to one side. So we should be coming off with our pelvis and lower back, but keeping our rib cage in connection with the mat. Then we're at the furthest point, we're going to come back up to centre. Let's go again the other side. So we're engaging our muscles in our core, in our obliques, lowering that our knees down to one side, and then squeezing legs together, engaging our centre to bring ourselves back to the beginning. And we can actually add a head turn as well, so we can just turn to look over the opposite shoulder as we lower our knees down to one side. It's just giving us a nice rotational stretch for our spine. So keep going, working with your breath, breathing out to lower back down, in to hold, out to squeeze your glutes, squeeze your abs and squeeze your legs together to bring yourself up to the start position. Keep going. So keep checking in that you're nice and relaxed in your upper body, back of your shoulder blades in connection with the mat, and the whole of your rib cage as much as possible in connection with the mat. So just gazing over the opposite shoulder as you lower those knees and then squeeze your legs together, engage into your core to lift them back to centre. So again, only going as far as you can control, that you can bring it back to centre. Keeping rib cage in connection with the mat. Let's just do one more each side at this level. Okay, one more. Now if you're happy to stay at this level, stay at this level. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, the next time we rotate our legs and lower them to one side, we're going to hold there and we're going to stretch one leg away nice and long, return it, and then come back to centre. Let's go again. Let's breathe out to rotate, in to hold and stretch away, and then out to bring back to centre. So rotating, stretching away, returning that leg and back to centre. So we're really squeezing our knees together. That's really going to help us engage through our core that little bit stronger. Just really working into those oblique muscles as we lower our legs, hold for our stretch and return. Let's do one more like this. And if you're happy at this level, stay at this level. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, we're going to keep that leg long as we return back to centre. So we're going to stretch away, squeeze legs together, engage our core to bring our leg back to centre. So we're just getting a little bit more work into these abdominals and into this oblique muscles now. But just keep checking into your upper body, back of your shoulder blades in connection with the mat. Stay nice and relaxed through your rib cage. much connection as possible with your rib cage. Let's do one more each side, pointing through that toe, squeezing legs together, squeezing core, and one more. Back to centre. Lovely, well done. Bring your arms back. Just double check that you've got a nice Pilates rest position in preparation for your next exercise. Let's bring your legs back to hip distance apart. Ensure you're nice and relaxed in your upper body and nice and neutral for your pelvis. Okay, we're going to take some one leg stretches at level 2. So we're going to bring one leg up into tabletop and then stretch it away on that diagonal. I'm going to start circling that leg from the hip joint. So start off nice and slowly, nice and small. So we're challenging our muscles in our abdominal to keep everything still through our pelvis and stomach region as we're taking our leg into these circles. So we're breathing out for half a circle, in for half a circle. Okay, let's take it the other way around now. So we're going to go for 5 in this direction. So push down on your stationary leg because you want that nice and still. I should be able to put that cup of tea we were talking about earlier on top of your knee, and we shouldn't spill a drop. So make sure you're nice and relaxed in your upper body. Only make those circles as wide as you can control what's happening at your pelvis. Got one more here. And then back to tabletop and lower back down. Okay, we're going to go again with the other leg now. So up to tabletop, stretch that leg away. We're going for 5 circles in one direction. And then 5 in the other. So work with your breath, stretch through that leg, really nice and long, and really draw into your core to make sure there's no movement at all, no flattening or arching, no rocking side to side. We've got one more in this direction. I'm going to push down that stationary leg, and then we're going back the other way. This is challenging your core stability. Can you keep your core, your pelvic region, your stomach region really still, even when your heavy leg is moving in big circles? So a lovely challenge. So keep checking on your upper body for me, make sure you're nice and relaxed. Okay, I've got one more here. Well done. Back to tabletop and relax back down. Okay, we're going to just do some work now on our obliques again to finish. So we're going to double check we're in our Pilates rest position, nice and neutral, nice and relaxed through our upper body, and feet hip distance apart. And we're going to come into some oblique preparations. So we're going to pop one hand behind our head. We're going to float our elbow into our peripheral vision, and our opposite leg we're going to either keep on the floor if that's better for you, or bring it up into a single tabletop. We're going to have the other arm nice and long, and we're going to come up for some oblique preparations. We're going to breathe out to come up, into lower back down. So we're coming up on a diagonal line, bringing opposite shoulder to opposite hip, flattening through our abdominal muscles, engaging strongly through our abdominal muscles, but flattening into our abs. There's no doming at all. Stretching away with that long arm as you come up, reaching down towards your toes, making sure you're keeping nice length in both sides of your waist. Okay, let's go for one more like this. Now if you're happy at this level or you want to come down, that's fine. If you want a bit more of a challenge, let's keep that leg lifted. When you come up to your next hold, we're going to lower leg and upper body at the same time. And then we're going to come up. And we're going to lower leg and upper body. So really squeeze into your core, flatten through those abdominal muscles, working with your breath, out to come up, into lower back down. Keep going for me. Press through that stationary leg on the other side just to add some support. Make sure you're not flattening or arching through your lower back at all. Everything stays really still in your pelvic and lower back region. Let's go for one more. And come up, release your head back down, release your leg down. Well done, we're going to do that on the other side now. So again, you can stay in Pilates rest position or come up to that single tabletop. So opposite arm just comes nice and long alongside your body, up into tabletop with your opposite leg. In breath to prepare, out breath to lift on that diagonal, in breath to lower back down. So keeping that elbow in your peripheral vision, keeping that gap underneath your chin, breathing out to come up, in to come down. We're really working into these deep abdominals now and into this oblique muscles. Make sure there's no movement at all in your lower body. Just gliding your rib cage down and across on that diagonal. Okay, so the next one, we're going to add our leg stretch if you want to. If not, keep going with what we were doing. Lovely, stretch that leg away, making sure you're staying in neutral at all times. Now the lower you put that leg, the more challenging it's going to be. Keep checking in that your elbows in your peripheral vision, you're flattening through the abdominals. Let's make that one our last one. Then we come back up, release through our body and release that leg down. Well done. Okay, so from here we're going to start our cool down. We're going to bring one knee into our chest and stretch the other leg long. We're just going to hug that knee to our chest and start taking some nice deep in breaths and out breaths through our nose if possible. Lengthening your breath with every out breath and just relaxing that knee a little bit more and more into your chest. Lovely, let's replace that knee on the floor, bring our other knee to our chest and stretch the other leg away. So again, taking nice deep in breaths in through your nose, out through your nose, relaxing that knee into your chest. Lovely, let's bring ourselves back to Pilates rest position and let's roll onto our sides and push back into a child's pose. So widen your knees, bring your bottom onto your heels nice and heavy, walk your arms out in front of you, maybe tuck your head under just to get a full stretch of your spine, push down through your forearms just to increase that stretch across the top of your back and around your shoulders. We're going to walk our arms over to one side, keeping our bottom on our heels, feeling that stretch down that side. Taking a few long breaths here, in through your nose, out through your nose. Then we're going to walk our hands back to centre and then over to the other side. Again, keeping our bottom on our heels, feeling that nice stretch down our sides. Few big breaths here. And then walk our hands back to centre and push back up to a kneel. And then let's push back onto our feet, keeping nice and low, keeping our head and arms hanging down, maybe straighten through our knees, just to feel that nice stretch down the back of our hamstrings. Maybe just grab opposite elbows as well, just to get that increased stretch down through your spine. Take a few breaths here. Nod your head, shake your head, just to release any tension you might have in your neck. Okay, and release your elbows, soften through your knees, and then we're going to start to restack one vertebra at a time. So we're going to bring our pelvis up to neutral, then we're going to start bringing one vertebra at a time as we roll up to a nice tall standing position, rolling through our shoulders. And just coming to the front of our mat. We're going to reset our posture to finish the class. So let's make sure we're stood with feet hip distance apart. We've got nice soft knees. We've got our nice neutral pelvis. Maybe roll through it a couple of times. Come to rest in the middle, hip bones pointing forward. That our rib cage, front of our rib cage gliding down towards our pelvis. Nice light core connection to finish. Roll through your shoulders, up, back and down. Letting them relax down. Shoulder blades gliding back down to opposite chin pockets. And then growing nice and tall from the top of your head to the bottom of your tailbone. We're going to take 3 nice big in-breaths with a chest stretch to finish. So breathing in, you stretch across your chest, and then breathing out. And again, stretch across your chest, out, and last one. And out. Lovely. Well, thank you very much for joining me for this Pilates session. I hope you enjoyed it.